everyone, and welcome back to our lead up to International Women's Day. Today we have our second interview. It's going to be with Lottie Morris, which is super exciting. She's our first AD. So thank you everybody for joining us. We're going to be going through some questions, learning a little bit more about Lottie. So yeah, let's add her now and we can get started on some questions. Hi, and thank you so much for joining us today.
All right.
So as I was just saying, you're first AD, you've recently just left university, starting off in the industry, which is really impressive. Firstly, I think like what we should kind of go over is kind of the role of a first AD, because obviously some people watching might not fully know. So if you tell us a little bit about your role as a first AD.
Yeah, so the first AD is usually responsible for the kind of logistics and plannings in the shoot, as well as ensuring the set runs smoothly. So the best analogy to give would be if the production was a ship, you're the first mate. You're responsible for helping the director reach their vision, look after the production's resources and budgets and kind of keep that in mind, and also make sure that the crew are all happy and their well-being is being prioritized.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like this is just another thing to add. I think the first AD isn't really a well-known role, but it genuinely, like, most sets would not happen without a first AD because organization included, nothing really happens without a first AD's okay on something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's one of those unsung hero roles, but I kind of like that about it as well. I kind of like being not as noticed, as it were.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Of course, when you're on set, a lot of people always, like, once you get on set, you tend to have to know who the first AD is too, because you're always the shots. But yeah, no, so that's great. This is kind of, I know that I've just talked a little bit about how you have just recently left university last summer. But where are you hoping to go from here? Like, what are your aspirations in the film industry? Do you hope to continue working as a first AD, or are there other areas of film you'd like to explore?
I definitely want to stay with ADing. It's something that I think appeals to my personality and my skill set. I quite like the social aspect of it, as in kind of communicating with people and that collaborative teamwork effort. So yeah, I think that has kind of really solidified in my mind. And yeah, I've had experiences that haven't been as great in my first AD role in the past, but I don't try and look on them negatively. I've tried to look on them quite positively and learn from them. And then I think that's been quite a key part of me sticking with the role.
Yeah, that's so great to hear. I think that's really nice to hear that kind of perseverance as well. And just quickly, I see that we have a lot of people joining us, so thank you everybody for joining us. If any of you do have any questions for Lottie, just pop them in the comments and I'll try to get through as many as possible. I have had a couple of questions sent in as well, so we'll get to those all at the end. But yeah, no, that's great. I think you kind of covered this but I don't have this question written down, but I'm just interested. What kind of draws you to the role of first ADing? Like, what about it do you really love?
Yeah, I think it is just that kind of collaborative nature, and you are kind of the peacekeeper, and I find that's something that I quite enjoy. I'm not a person who really enjoys conflict, so and I'm a big problem solver. I like solving puzzles and challenges and things, so I feel that then reflects itself in the role that I've decided to follow. You have to kind of come up with sometimes unconventional solutions that are just kind of completely out there. No one's thought of it, but you're like, let's just give it a go and see. And you've got to be that person who just keeps pushing everyone else forward. So it's a bit of a leadership role, but not entirely on your shoulders, as it were.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think the key word that just stuck out in your answer is that kind of connects with me with first ADing is problem solving. That is such a key part of first ADing, and I think that's so my next question for you is, what kind of drew you to working on the Railway Woman? Like, what about the film made you want to work on it?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, it's a chance to kind of come back and meet a lot of people who I've worked with in the past. So that's a great opportunity for me. But I think it's a really ambitious project. And I've never shied away from working on ambitious projects in the past. There have been some really challenging ones, like a sci-fi film that had a whole use of an alien CGI monster that you had to kind of figure out how we were going to film all that and plan around that. And there was a fight sequence within that as well, so that was quite chaotic. There was a time when we had to lock off like a whole road, and that was really stressful to try and keep that organized and ensure the crew were all safe. So those are the kind of challenges you face, and I really like tackling each one. And I know there's a couple of challenges coming up with this film, but I look forward to that. And another big reason why I was interested in the film is that it's focusing on the topic of a woman with autism, and it's becoming a higher trend. We're seeing a lot more representation building on the topic of autism, but there needs to be more focus on women with autism. It's a very overlooked area because women are very good at masking their autism compared to normal certain other autistic males. And I think therefore it's a film that is really good for that representation, so I really want to support that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And just adding a little bit about that, if that's all right. Yeah, that is a really great point about how the representation of women with autism is a key focus of this film, because the word that you used, which you used perfectly, was masking. And it's often that girls with autism don't often get are not often told that they have autism until much later in life than men. And I think that is something that we all really need to be aware of. But yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for that answer.
No worries.
In terms of okay, this is a bit of a fun question. In terms of your favorite film, in terms of female empowerment, what would you say is your favorite film or female femme character? Which would you say?
I have to say, and it's going to sound incredibly cheesy as an answer, but Elle Woods and Legally Blonde. It is the pinnacle of female empowerment as a film, because what I love about it is the whole time that the film progresses, Elle doesn't change her internal values. She doesn't change her appearance. She doesn't change how she goes about the world for the sake of fitting in the role of a law student and trying to get to the top. But she takes her natural skill sets, her natural talents from her sorority days, and translates them into skills for defending in court. And I think that's a really great thing. And also Reese Witherspoon is an incredible actress and an incredible image of female empowerment herself. She's done loads of charity work. She set up her own film company that looks after women in film. So overall, it's just one of those films that stuck with me since a kid.
Yeah.
And I just love it, and I can always throw it on when it's a cold, dreary day outside and cheers me up.
Yeah, I've got to be honest with you. When I wrote up these questions, I had to think of my answers for them.
Yeah.
And I thought of Legally Blonde as well, because it is a really underrated film, and like it's one of those films that you watch when you're younger, and it does make an impression. It's always nice, like those younger film impressions that make an impression. I love that answer. I think that's great. And again, Reese Witherspoon, you're right, is a really great mentor, and she's done a lot of talks if anybody wants to look them up, because she has a lot of talks about feminism and women in the industry. Yeah, that's great. So those are all my questions. I do have a couple of questions that have been sent in, and if I want to ask any questions, just put a comment at the bottom and I'll try and get through to them. So our first question is from Bethan, and she asked, have you found that you've had to fight or prove yourself a little bit more than your male AD counterparts?
I think so, yeah. It's tricky because obviously everyone has their own way of tackling the AD role as well. but I have found that sometimes, particularly on more male dominated sets, you have to speak louder, really. You have to literally make yourself heard, which isn't a problem for me. Luckily, I have quite a loud voice anyway, but it can be quite daunting as well, especially when there's people on a set who are older than you and feel they have more experience. And that doesn't always mean just because you're older or you've been in the industry longer that you can then undermine whoever's technically in a higher role, if that makes sense. And it can be really disheartening, but I think I've learned from those experiences as well, and kind of thought to myself, right, how can I learn from that situation? Was there something I could have done better? Could I have tackled it in a different way? And I try and move on to the next set with all of that in mind.
Absolutely. I think, I completely understand that. And that's absolutely right. I think, do you feel like it has made any impact on your confidence going through?
I think it's definitely improved my confidence, if anything. Just again, learning each time and continuing to better my own skill set and not letting it bring me down is it's really tricky. You've got to have quite a positive forward mentality with these things. And again, I'm very lucky that I'm quite a positive person in my outlook, so I can get through those hurdles quite easily, but I can definitely see why other people would struggle more. And I think sometimes you've got to look back on the day as well and think, I did what I could during that. As much as you can reflect and go back and say, I could have done this better, I could have done this better, you've got to also remember to just give yourself a pat on the back, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's excellent, and definitely rewarding yourself for the work you've done. Like, that's a great piece of advice as well. This actually, I missed out one question, so that links into my last question for you. Is what piece of advice would you pass on to any females or femmes going into this industry? Or a piece you've been given that's really helpful?
I would definitely say take every opportunity that you get offered within reason. I hear it all the time. Everyone goes, take every opportunity, take every opportunity. And the industry's become a great place for women at the moment. We're seeing so much improvement in terms of diversity in cast and crew. And there's a lot more support, especially with the Me Too movement, but we're still not there yet in making it an industry that helps everyone and looks after everyone. And so that's why I say take every opportunity within reason. Don't undermine your own values and integrity for the sake of potentially getting that one role that you think could be the breakthrough. And it could be the breakthrough door, but there's no point putting yourself in a situation that makes you uncomfortable or hurts you. And there will always be more opportunities like that, and you've just got to stay true to yourself. So definitely be forward, fight for what you want, but do take care of yourself and don't just let people go and walk all over you.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, and I'm really glad that you said that. And I'm just going to add like something to that, because I think that it is really important that you do take every opportunity, but I do think that women are kind of pushed to take every opportunity that we're meant to. But it isn't. We are able just as much to step away from something and say, you know what, this isn't okay. Because I've seen actually, you know, I've seen a lot of, and it's not just men, but I have seen more men than women step off a set and say, I'm not dealing with this. And I think it's important that it's okay for women to know, like, if you're uncomfortable, you don't need to fight through this, because it is, like you said, you hold your own integrity and you get to decide and you get to be in control of the situation. So I think that's a really great point. I have one question that Millie has sent in. She'd like to know if you'd ever consider script supervising. And for those of you who don't know, script supervising is keeping up with continuity on set.
So I've tried my hand at it in the past, and it was a great experience. I really did enjoy it. And I think if I was given the chance to, I would do it again, but it's not something I'd say I'm that skilled in. It requires a lot of attention to detail, and I'm better with things kind of being spread far and wide in my brain. I struggle to focus on the very little detail, or I get really het up over one tiny detail and forget all about the other details. And that means I have incredible respect for people who do script supervise. I think it's a really difficult task sometimes because there's so much going on, and it's just you to look after that scene and the next scene, and you've got to remember it all. And yeah, I just don't think I can keep up with that. But maybe if there's more opportunities in the future, I might. But I definitely want to stick with ADing for the most part.